guys, so this video was inspired by a conversation that I just had with my coworker. I was telling him about an ataxia mental shutdown moment that I had, and for those of you who haven't seen that video, I'll post a link below. But just a quick recap, I got to the point to where like I couldn't tell you who the president of the United States was, or my address, or the pin to my phone. I couldn't tell the difference between a lion and a tiger. I couldn't even walk. That's how my brain just kind of like finally, after all these years of just suppressing stuff and not dealing with issues, my brain, the manifestation of all of that just came to me at once, and that's how it presented itself. So yeah, it was a crazy situation. But I'm telling my coworker this story, and he goes, hey, do you regret, like, because of all of this stuff that happened to you, do you regret not going to seek therapy earlier? Than maybe you would have stopped this before it happened. And so the truth is I actually had gone a couple of times. And so he goes, well, maybe you should make a video of this. Like, he knows of my channel, but I don't think he's seen it unless he searched for it. But I said, well, you know, most of my videos are about things that I've kind of worked through with therapy. So I don't know how to make a video just about therapy, or like how that would look, or what would be the purpose of that, you know? And he goes, well, I think people like it. I'm like, you know, I'll think about it. So I go home. This was yesterday. I go home, go to bed. I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, like wide awake, eyes wide open. And usually when that happens, I will go to my phone and I'll watch like some type of like self-help, life coach, guru kind of video, something with a monotone voice, and thinking, okay, if there's any sleep left in me, this will put me to sleep, and if not, then maybe I'll learn something. All right, that's kind of my approach. But before I could even search, in my recommendations, there's a video of Pedro Pascal and Bad Bunny on SNL, and I like them both, so I thought, oh, let me watch this. You know, it's funny. So I put on the video, and of course, it is super funny, and I'll just put a little clip here.
Mama! No. He tried to get it when he was a kid. He said, Mommy, I'm depressed. Then I said, don't do that. Do something else.
After I saw this video, it was kind of like everything became clear of what type of video or the purpose of making a video like this was. So here we go, because that video almost perfectly describes my experience, my first experience with trying to go through a therapist. So I'm in the military, right? And I'm having a tough time adjusting. I'm just feeling super lonely. I mentioned this in some of my other videos, but I end up going to a therapist, and here's the crazy stuff. It wasn't until the ataxia thing, which was what, 2019, and I'm going through my medical records, and I'll post this here, but it wasn't until I read this that I mentioned this before, but like sometimes I block certain things, lots of things out of my childhood going up to being in the military. My brain did this as a way to protect myself. But in reading this, like, I didn't know that I had 2 suicide attempts, and I didn't know that my supervisor recommended me to go to therapy. Like, I knew that I went, but I didn't know that it was because of my supervisor. And again, as I'm reading this, it's kind of like I don't remember the details, but like, oh, wait, I do remember my supervisor having a conversation with him, not knowing, like, again, the details are foggy. I don't know why we had this conversation or how things kind of manifested itself, but I do, to the point where, like, where I know which supervisor it was, even though like that they rotated often, but I knew exactly which supervisor. So yeah, it was just crazy. I couldn't believe this years and years later, where like I'm reading something like, oh wow, like I don't remember a lot of this stuff, but I 100% remember going to a therapist because she was Puerto Rican, a Puerto Rican therapist, and her response, you know, I tried to begin to open myself to her and just describe what I was feeling, and I was met with like this crazy typical Puerto Rican stuff where it was kind of like, she really was like, well, you're Puerto Rican, you're tougher than this, and you know, you're better than this, you can't let this get you down, you just need to push through this. And I'm kind of like, well, you know, but I am, you know, I'm having these thoughts, and she's like, well, just stop having them, you know, very much like the clip. That was my experience, to where I left feeling not unheard. I left feeling embarrassed, and thinking maybe she's right. And you know, even with the whole thing, like, well, can you recommend a psychologist? And she goes, yeah, I can, but it's gonna take 6 months. And you know, I'm thinking in the back of my brain, like, I just finished telling you that I'm having suicidal thoughts, and you're telling me the earliest I can see someone is 6 months, you know, a psychologist. So I leave thinking maybe she knows something that I don't. Maybe it's not that serious. Like, maybe I am overreacting. And so that's kind of like how I got back to my room, and I'm thinking, maybe it's just you, Mikey, you know? And that's how I left it. So I never went to that appointment. I just thought, I'm just gonna have to suck it up and work through it, you know, just push through it, like she said. So that was my first attempt. So the second attempt was actually when I was getting out of the military, and during the separation stuff, they kind of offered, do you want to speak to someone about, you know, just stuff? So I said, maybe I'll try this again. So I said, yeah, I will. So I have a therapist, and it was a gay therapist, right? And well, I didn't know this at first, but he was gay. But I felt super comfortable with him versus the first time. So I'm really opening up and just going into detail. But by this point, I was in full mode of just like, I have to put up this front and not look hurt, you know, not express that. So I'm talking about serious things, but I'm smiling, and I'm just kind of like making jokes of it, and just, it's all lighthearted stuff, you know, how I'm approaching these heavy things. And so part of this, and I was there for like, I think 2 weeks straight of just like consistent there every day going to therapy. It was individual, and there was also a group therapy part of it, which I opted in for that because I thought it'd be great, right? So I'm going to group therapy, and I remember there's this one dude who, he was a redhead, right? So even before, you know, I get to the session, and he's sitting in a chair, like just crying. His face is like beet red, you know? And the therapist is trying to talk to him, and you could tell like he was just kind of spiraling. And I don't know what possessed me, but I go over to him, and I kind of hug him, and he was going through similar stuff that I was. And so I was able to relate to him on a lot of things. And we're just kind of talking about that. And I'd like to, you know, I think I helped him out that day. I think so, yeah. But so after I met him, of course, we became super cool. We hung out a lot after our sessions, but super cool dude. But yeah, so the therapist was kind of like, oh, you know, thank you so much for helping me, and you just have this way with people, and blah, 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 you know. And I'm feeling great, because I'm thinking, maybe I'm doing that much better, that I'm like on the other side, to the point to where I'm helping other people out, right? So I'm like, that's freaking amazing. And again, you know, for the 2 weeks or however long it was, I don't remember, but I'm kind of going through the individual stuff and the group stuff, and I'm helping other folks out. And towards, like, right at the end, the therapist, he says, hey, why don't you come over to my house? Like, I just want to cook dinner for you, because you've been such a help to me. And I'm like, that's super cool. Yeah, I'd love to. So that day, right, like after the group session, one of the other dudes, he's like, hey, let me drive you back to the barracks. You don't have to walk. I said, okay, cool. So I get in the car, and you know, I'm talking, just we're having a good time, just talking. But then it occurs to me that like we're not going, it's a huge base, but we're not going towards like where the barracks are at. We're actually going the opposite way to like a more secluded, wooded area of the base. And so finally I'm like, where we're going? You know, what's going on? So he pulls off, and again, we're in the middle of nowhere, and then he's trying to kiss me, and I'm like, oh, what's going on? And he's like, oh, I like you, and you know, I'm like, okay, well, I say, this is not gonna happen. Like, I think you're cool, but no, like no. And so I remember him saying something to me like, well, you cannot either get into this or you can walk back to the barracks. And normally I'm thinking my normal reaction would have just been like, let me get out of here. I just probably just would have opened the door and just started walking. But for some reason I was so mad, and I was like, I remember I told him off. I'm like, you do not, you're gonna take me back to the barracks now. Turn the car on and take me back. And I was just like yelling at him. He's like, okay. So he takes me back to the barracks. Like I was so mad at the fact that, I thought we were cool, and I thought I'd helped him out with stuff, and he's pulling this crap. Like I was super upset with him because of that. So like I never want to talk to you again. I slammed the door. And so that night I go to the therapist's house, thinking like maybe this is something I can talk to him about. So knock on the door, he opens the door, and that's when I noticed he set up a mood, like he had the candles and the music and wine, and I was underage and he was my therapist, but yeah, like I was, kind of doubting, like maybe I'm over, reading too much into it. But then he's like, yeah, I'm so glad that, it's like officially I'm not your therapist anymore, so we're just like, we can just hang out and we can just like talk and see where things go. And I'm like, oh man, God, I hate talking about this because it sounds like, oh, everyone's trying to hit him. Like, I hate that, but it's true. Like it's true that did happen. So I'm there like, oh, what do I do? Like I wanted him to still be my therapist, if that makes any sense. I wanted to tell him about the situation that just happened to me, and that kind of, I don't even know how to explain it, but I thought, okay, maybe this entire thing that I had, these entire few weeks was bull, and this was all about this moment. God, I don't like talking about this, but yeah, that's kind of like how I left feeling. Like I first off, I thought I have to say this is not gonna, I'm like, I don't even remember what I said, but it was something along the lines of, I don't need to be with anyone right now. I just need to be with myself, and I don't need to, like I just need to focus on me and not anyone else. So I kind of like remember just taking the conversation into a path like where nothing is going to happen, and he was cool with it. Like, so we ended up just eating, and he was trying to give me a little bit. He was heavy with the wine, we'll say that, but I kept I was centered, and yeah, and so I ended up leaving, and nothing happened. But after that, again, I was unsure. Like I had like a bad taste in my mouth for therapists, because two different experiences, but still both where I thought, can I really be vulnerable? Can I really be myself and open up completely, And so I didn't, I just, that's why I kind of just went into this thing of keeping things bottled up. And it wasn't until that moment where all this crazy stuff happened, and again, I mentioned in that video, but they did spinal tap and MRI. Like they put me through every test I don't remember any of it, but I was told that all this stuff was done to me, them trying to figure out if there was something physically wrong with me, like if I had a stroke or something, and like, no, everything was physically was fine. And that's when it was like, maybe it's something up here. So I started having assessments and testing, and that finally led to, maybe you should speak to a psychologist. And so I finally did. And this time, and it was a veterans VA psychologist, but this time this dude was like amazing. Like his approach of making me feel comfortable, quickly I was able to just open up and just tell him everything that was going on with me. And yeah, he's my therapist to this day, and he's amazing. I'm so glad out of, you know, even though I went for a terrible reason, I'm so glad that I actually came across him and finding him in this way, because he was exactly what I needed. And the thing is, though, is that when I think now, I saw this other clip on, after that, the SNL clip, I found another one with Drew Barrymore, and I will post this one here.
Want to put it out there. I want to encourage other people to not sit on things, but discuss it. Be bold, and not afraid of what other people are thinking and feeling when they're digesting your sort of deepest stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Letting out secrets can be really liberating.
That this video also inspired me to make this video, because I just love the fact that no matter what age, it's never too late. It's never too late to do things right. And I think about how much therapy has changed my life, and finding the right therapist. And I guess the lesson of this, what I would have told myself after the first 2 attempts, is keep on going, because this is not about the therapist. This is about you and getting help for what you need. And there will be that person who's going to help you, who's going to be life-changing. And you shouldn't waste all these years living in misery, living, suppressing all of this stuff. Because when again, I'm not on the other side, that there is still work to be done, but I am so much better than where I used to be. And I'm so glad that I didn't stop, and I didn't, you know, I could have easily have said, you know what, I just have a bad taste. I never want to speak to anyone again about that stuff. But yeah, sometimes you have to get pushed. If you're not listening enough, I'm sure throughout the years, there's been whispers and all this, you know, get help, see someone, speak about this. And sometimes you ignore it until you get pushed to a situation. But I'm glad that eventually I was pushed, because had I not, who knows where I would have been to today. And so that's I guess that's the lesson of this video. That's my message. That's the purpose of making this video, is that if any of you have had similar experiences if any of you have had similar experiences with a bad therapist, I would just say keep it up. Keep looking for others. Find the one that matches you. Find your fit, because when you do, the benefits of that outweighs any of the other stuff that you go through in finding that person. So again, if you've had a similar experience, I'd love to hear it. Please like, subscribe, more importantly, comment. I want to know about your stuff.